Good afternoon, everyone, or morning in California. This is Alan Blumkin, and I'm here with my good friend David Nemec to do another podcast on David Nemec's baseball history and trivia, and with such statistics. Welcome, Jay. Welcome, David.
Welcome to you. Pleasure to be with you once again.
Okay. Today we're going to discuss Henry Aaron and the fact that nobody got into the Hall of Fame from the Rise Committee this year. Okay, David, you start.
Well, I was actually rather pleased to see nobody get in. Not that I don't think there were some good players on the list, except for the highly suspected PEDS users. There was no one on the list. I thought that was an overwhelming choice by any means, and I think there were quite a number of players getting in the Hall of Fame in recent years who are really not that deserving. And I really would like to see the Hall of Fame tighten up. I think the writers who are choosing not to vote for suspected or even convicted PEDS users are doing absolutely the right thing. I feel that performance enhancing is very different from performance enabling. And I think when we went to a 162 game schedule and playing on artificial turf and night games followed by day games, players, in order to just hold their own, had to take performance enablers and just to stay awake, to stay alert, to keep their natural talents at peak level for as long as they could. Whereas performance enhancers, I think, they've undermined the game. They've earned the internal distrust of fans, and the Hall of Fame has now become a very, very difficult kettle of fish. And I think this year went with a breath of fresh air with nobody entered. And next year, I don't know what we've got. A-Rod coming up, and we've got David Ortiz. And and my firm opinion is neither one should be a Hall of Famer. So from my point of view, I feel 2 years in a row without a Hall of Fame selection is something to really,
A-Rod. Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead, because the numbers are certainly
A-Rod
there.
Was at the Biden inauguration because his girlfriend, Jennifer Lopez, sang one of the songs there. So he was there in a tuxedo and tie. He's tried very hard to rehabilitate himself.
Yeah, well,
but he was suspended 1 year for.
Yeah, I think he's doing everything he can to ingratiate himself, but what he did, and he did by choice. That's true of all of them, and it was an unfortunate. I think there were PEDS users before the strike in '94, and they were encroaching on the game even then. But after '94, it just went way out of control, and I was very, very disappointed. The commissioner and the players rep. I thought two people who should never make the Hall of Fame were Bud Selig and Don Fair under any conditions, and one of them has already gotten in. I know he's in. I thought he's very undeserving. And he allowed it to happen. It happened on his watch, and he could have done something to stop it, but he didn't because the owners were making money doing it. They were happy. Fans were happy. The attendance was perking up after the strike, and in doing so, I think they just destroyed the integrity of the game.
Well, what I said to people with Selig, I said the bar was set very low when they put Bowie Kuhn in.
Yeah, it's
I'm a little bit ambivalent, even though I know, the Clemens was fading, and he went to Toronto, and he made as a free agent, and he met Jose Canseco.
Yeah,
and that's when he started. And the Bonds, you look at his numbers; they got higher as he got older.
They did. Nobody else in history has done. Yeah, and nobody's done what Clemens did either. Had years after age 35 that, they actually had their top years after age 35, and there's no question that in my mind that they were using and abusing, and they were also recruiting. Bonds not so much, but Clemens definitely. He really didn't see any reason to really make too much of an effort to hide it. And by that point, probably a lot of other players weren't either. And I think there are some who slipped into the Hall of Fame already. And it's a very difficult problem now, because people can justifiably say, well, he got in. And everybody suspected him of using, and here's Barry Bonds with fantastic numbers. Why isn't he getting in? But at some point you had to draw the line, and I hope it's been firmly drawn, and we'll see.
Well, you take a look at Bonds' rookie card in 1986. And you look at one from 1993, so to speak, 1994, 1995. He looks twice as big.
Yeah. He put up. His hat size grew. Everything grew, and the bonds I saw in 1999 looked like he was nearing the end. I saw him play. I was living in San Francisco. He couldn't get around in the high fastball. He was on his way out. Maybe he had a year or two left, and even maybe just in pinch hitting, maybe a DH in the American League. But he certainly did not have a 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003 season coming up. Still left in his tank. That immediately, I think he sprang open Pandora's box. When he did what he did in 2000, it immediately became clear what players were doing. And McGuire got away with it for a time, but the McGuire I saw play in the early 90s, I think he was experimenting with various peds, not getting anything successful. And he had a season, I believe it was in 91, where he had probably the worst offensive season by a first baseman in the 20th century, and he hit like 201, and he had the power numbers were there, but the average wasn't there. He was getting hurt a lot, and I think I attribute it to what he was using.
Yeah, he never had the numbers for the Hall of Fame. And another one that had over 500 home runs. And a lifetime batting average over 300. Rafael Palmeiro didn't even make it past the first cut.
No. Well, he, after.
Well, I knew he lied because he denied it Congress, and then they found that Tejada was selling to him.
Yeah, exactly. It's the misfortune. I mean, it's something that happened. It's something that probably, to a certain degree was inevitable given the strike and how it destroyed it really destroyed the faith in baseball. People had faith in baseball. It was an honest sport. And at that point, players and owners alike, I know I'm not alone in never feeling the same again after '94, and I never will. And my mistrust of the game gets worse every year because I think there are still players who I think are highly specious, the numbers they're posting. Ortiz, for one. I mean, Ortiz wasn't hardly even a ball player, not a complete ball player by any means, and bouncing around, really doing nothing, and then suddenly he lands on the Red Sox, and he becomes, Mr. Home Run, Mr. RBI, and hitting machine, and I just never could believe in it.
Yeah, one that I suspected, well, two actually. Lenny Dykstra, he's not going to get it anyway, but you look at his pitches with the '86 Mets and the '93 Phillies, is twice the size. And the other one who I definitely suspect is Kirby Puckett. How do you go from 0 home runs in your rookie year to 31 2 years later?
I know. I think we're going to find out down the line, because I think, if you really weren't careful how you were using, I think the after effects are going to show up as these guys get into their 50s and 60s, and we're going to see some very unfortunate, former ball players, the condition they're going to be in, and I don't know. It's sad. It really is sad, because we're looking at a guy like Henry Aaron. Henry Aaron probably, since everybody else did, probably had to use greenies at some point to just stay alert, given the schedules these players were following. They were all doing it. And it's one thing when all are doing it because they have to, just in order to be able to sustain, their endurance and their stamina and their just staying awake even. And with the passing of Henry Aaron, it's been an amazing year as far as losing, Hall of Famers.
That's 10 now. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and it's. I don't think there's ever been a period in history where so many. There's been such a cluster of really great players who died in such a rapid succession.
Henry Aaron was 86, and his 87th birthday is Friday, and he was one of the players I grew up with.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and I've seen a number of interviews with him on YouTube. He comes across as a very gentlemanly, has a very nice sense of humor. And he was asked a couple of times, what made you so good? He says, well, I always shot for the best, to be the best. And after he broke his ankle in September of his rookie year, he never spent a minute on the disabled list.
Yeah.
Now they go to the disabled list if they have a hangnail.
I know. Yeah, he was a complete ball player, and he stayed under the radar for such a long time because he wasn't leading the league in home runs already. He wasn't having these astronomical home run seasons, breaking 50, and really people didn't. I think if you'd ask somebody in 1965, all right, there's a player active today who's going to break Babe Ruth's record, I think everyone would have said Willie Mays, and of course it wasn't Mays. It was Aaron by quite a wide margin, and
Mays lost a little bit over a year and a half to the military.
Yeah, he did.
He went in May 52 and didn't come out till 54.
Yeah.
So had he not gone in there, he might have had a shot.
It would have.
They asked
he
they
came
asked
out.
Aaron. Yeah.
He came out. You know, when he came out of the military in 54, 55, he had big years in those years, right? You know, he was.
Yeah,
his rookie year he struggled, and he came out. He was already pretty much the ball player he was going to be, and it didn't take him a long time to. It took Mantle a couple of years, for 2 or 3, 4 years, before he showed all that he was really capable of, and Mays was there with him, and Aaron was there too.
Yeah, Aaron's his rookie year wasn't all that great, but the second year was very, very good. And they, one of these interviewers asked him, "What do you think is your biggest accomplishment in baseball?" And they're expecting him to say 715. He said, "My consistency."
I would agree. I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has a very good. It affected me a lot, which much more than I expected it to.
Yeah.
After I saw a number of videos on YouTube after he passed, and he's after he retired, besides working for the Braves, he set up a foundation that has put a lot of kids through college. And he's one of those players like Musial and Berra that nobody ever had anything bad to say about them, ever.
No, it was. He was. You know, he stayed with the same franchise. Near the end of his career, he moved back. He moved to the Brewers. He did some DHing, and but prior to that, he was this firm national leaguer, and his stats. You can discount them if you want because he DH'd part of the time. Toward the end of his career, but you can't discount the stats he established before he just DH'd, and they were incredible.
What's ironic is that he, Mays, Babe Ruth, and Jimmy Fox all finished in the city they started in with different teams.
Yeah. Yeah.
There may be others that I'm missing, but those are the big four that stand out for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, Ruth in Boston.
Yeah.
Somebody came out with a book quite a number of years ago on the worst team of each decade. The last one they had in it was the '88 Orioles. This book was been out for a while, and when they get to the cover of the book has Babe Ruth in a Braves uniform. It's called "On a Clear Day You Could See Seventh Place."
Oh boy, yeah.
It was very.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was. You know, it was on four. It was really. It was really. You know, it's going. You know, we were going back now a ways, but all these guys, Fox too, and they all had sad endings to their careers.
Yeah.
Gehrig in particular, of course, through, you know, Gehrig only because of, you know, the terrible ALS, but
ALS,
Ruth didn't really take care of himself very well. Fox didn't take care of himself very well. On the other hand, there's Ty Cobb, who took care of himself to the very end. And to me, I understood why as a kid. The majority of people who I respected, older, you know, men my father's age and who were real baseball fans, all thought Cobb was a greater player than Ruth, because he sustained his greatness until the very end of his career. He was still hitting, you know, in the 340s, 350s.
It was Jackie Robinson's birthday on Sunday. I put this in the Sweet 16 group every year, that he and Babe Ruth were the two most important players of the 20th century.
Yeah.
Because one saved the game and the other changed it. And both of them died when they were 53.
I didn't realize that. Huh. No, I did not know that.
Robinson had diabetes they didn't treat.
And Ruth
got the throat cancer.
Yeah. I was never clear whether I don't know if Ruth chewed tobacco, or I don't remember him being a smoker, but he might have been. I know
he got
died
venereal disease, like 1925. Venereal disease. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't. Imagine if Ruth had taken care of himself. If the money had been there, the kind of money that had existed then that exists now, even though just given the, even allowing for inflation and all that, the salaries had been, say 800, 900,000 in Ruth's time. What kind of player he might have turned out to be if he had taken care of himself. I think the Ruth, if he had taken care of himself, could have still been a spot pitcher throughout his career. He still could have pitched made 10 or 12 starts a season into the 20s. And as it was, he would come out for an occasional pitching performance and he'd do well. He still had it. And then once he started to lose it, he started losing it very quickly. But and for all around talent, there probably was never anyone like Babe Ruth, I don't think.
Yeah, he one of his famous lines was when somebody said, "You're making more than President Hoover," and Ruth said, "I had a better year than him."
Yeah. Well,
it was 1930 and 1931, something like that. Yeah.
See,
but Ruth, loved adulation.
Well, I think most players appreciate it.
Henry Aaron didn't seem, he didn't seem fazed by any of that. The only time he got really excited as a player was the 715th home run. And he went through an awful lot of crap to get there. I mean, there were hate letters and, what's a black man doing beating the most cherished record in baseball, all of that crap. He got, tons of hate letters.
And he survived. He kept on. And Burrs, I think they really, the same letters, 15 years earlier, had a deep effect, a profound and lasting effect on Roger Maris when he's going to beat Ruth's 60 home run season record. Maris really never really got over it, but
no, because he got the newspaper writers here, and back then we had 7 dailies here. And they asked him the same stuff over and over and over again. And his, he lost hair because of it, and he never had a year approaching that afterwards.
No, he didn't.
But he was a good ball player. And another one that didn't take care of himself was Mantle.
No, he didn't. And
he was a boozer. Yeah,
he was, but he had underlying health issues. He did have the bone disease that had killed his father and his grandfather, and he had intimations of it too, and he
And
never
two
really
sons,
thought
yeah.
that he was going to live much beyond. If he lived to 50, he was
Yeah.
going to be lucky, given his family history. So when he said, "If I'd known I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself," I think it sounded like a comic line, but it really wasn't. I think it was said very sincerely that he actually would have taken very good care of himself.
And he had a very good sense of humor.
He did. He was, yeah. He did.
And the post office, I think in another month or two, is coming out with a stamp with picturing Yogi Berra.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I got a autographed picture of Berra hanging up on my wall here.
Oh.
Because not only is he my all-time favorite player, but he's my all-time favorite philosopher.
Yeah.
I use his quotes anytime I can, yeah.
Yeah, he was a very unprepossessing looking guy, and you know, if you put a lineup of guys out, none of whom had ever seen Yogi Berra, but just describe the kind of player he was, and that he was a catcher, he had power, and he was a smart catcher, and you put a lineup of guys out. And Berra had been one of them. I think we'd have been, Berra would have probably been one of the last guys picked to be Yogi Berra. It would have been, Well,
I still get chills watching him. Still get chills when I see a video of him hitting.
Yeah.
Hey, that great swing. I mean, he hardly ever. A lot of the players from that era hardly struck out.
No, they didn't.
Anything the way it is today.
No, and these guys were 50. Mize, when he hit 50 home runs, struck out less than 50. A lot of these guys, DiMaggio, would usually Williams. They'd always almost always have more home runs than strikeouts. Now, if you get a guy with 30 home runs and he struck out less than 100 times, you have to blink. Something, the guy's considered a contact hitter if he struck out 75 times in a season, and that's it's just
I became fascinated in the 70s by Rob. I'm sorry, this is late 70s, early 80s by Rob Deere.
Yes.
And I did at the Sabre convention in St. Louis in '92. I did a presentation on him. And after it was all done, now I think, I thought I was doing an exception, but at that time I was doing a pioneer.
No, yeah, right. Yeah, that's when the game changed. It really did. 100 strikeouts in a season was considered something to be. It wasn't shameful, but it was something to really, it was certainly going to be discussed when contract time came around. Yeah, you hit 30 home runs, 32 home runs, but you struck out 105 times. And now, it's if you struck out less than 200 times, it's probably not even going to be mentioned.
Yeah, I did a list a couple of years ago for the late Walt Wilson on batters who led the league in walks and strikeouts in the same year. So Ruth was on that list 5 or 6 times, but his walks always, his high strikeout was 94, and his walks always exceeded his strikeouts by a lot.
Yeah.
And then you had a player several years ago in the Reds named Adam Dunn, who led them both with 105 walks and I think his number was 212 strikeouts.
Yeah, so there are there are 300 over 300 plate appearances where contact wasn't made. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know.
Reggie Jackson. Yeah.
No, Jackson started to change. Because he struck out a lot, and
he has the record.
Yeah. He
has a lifetime record.
Reggie still has the career record for most strikeouts.
Yeah, 25.97.
Is that right? I didn't know that. I would have thought somebody. Yeah, well, he had a long career, and but
the only two times he missed 100 was in the 1981 strike, and his last year, I think, was 1996. No, it had to be 86 when he finished up with the A's.
Yeah.
Because he didn't play enough. Yeah. But every other year he was up over 100.
I didn't realize he still held the record, though. That's wow. It's interesting.
Oh yeah.
Guys like Dunn just don't really last that long.
No, they hang around long enough for that.
But the amazing guy is, to me, is like Albert Pujols. Now, I don't know. I don't know what to say about Pujols. He had 10 great seasons with the Cardinals, and he came over and he signed a 10-year contract with the Angels, and he was immediately a completely different player, and never approached anything like the figures he had in the National League. But the one thing that stayed consistent, Pujols still, and he never will because he's not going to be playing much anymore. I think he still has a contract 1 year to go.
Yeah.
That he'll probably fulfill. Yeah. This will be his last season. He'll be a part-time player. He's going to go down as probably the last player to get 3,000 hits, as many home runs as he did, and never strike out 100 times in a season. And that, to me, is when I look at Pujols, I don't know what to say because he hit an awful lot of double plays, certainly in the last, lately in the last few seasons. But he does get his bat on the ball, and I admire him for that. It's easy to condemn him, to say that maybe he was using those 10 years and stopped using once he got the big contract, and it became more difficult to hide what you were doing. But he still maintained what I would consider to be stats belonging to a contact hitter, in that he struck out fewer than 100 times every year.
Yeah, I call the Angels a place where free agents go to die.
Yeah. Yeah,
and I've gotten to a few discussions, let's call it discussions, on Facebook about Mike Trout. Oh, he's this and that, and blah, 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 blah. And he's played in 4 postseason games in his entire career. So most of the games he plays in, there's no meaning.
I know.
And how can you be an MVP like he was in 2019 for the league on a team that won 72 games?
Yeah, and his stats were good. He's solid, and they're good every year.
Yeah, his stats are very good, but nobody knows how he can play under pressure.
I know, and I'm not really sure about his fielding. If his fielding is really all that great, I don't. I've seen him play a couple of times. He doesn't jump out. He doesn't jump out at me in anything that he does. Whereas players from earlier eras, and Aaron was certainly one of them, and guys like Ted Kluszewski really jumped out at me when I saw Big Klug come up to bat, and Johnny Mize and guys like that. Musial in a strange stance and still got around on the ball, and always got good
Yeah.
wood on it. But nothing about Trout really is distinctive.
Yeah. Well, I don't get to see him as much as you do because, a season like this past one, all the Pacific was playing in the division, and all the East was playing in the division. All the Midwest was playing in the division, even the interleague games.
Yeah.
Which I'd love to see them do away with, but that'll never happen.
No.
Also, getting back to the Hall of Fame for a minute, one that I've felt for years deserves and from the Veterans Committee is Minnie Minoso.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
And they put Baines in. I mean, I when I heard that or saw it on TV on the MLB channel, because I couldn't believe it. There's nothing distinctive about him.
The longevity, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they love longevity. They don't like players who fall off the fence early.
Yeah, well, with the money that's
I
there.
call them Yeah, no, I call them accumulators.
Yeah, they are accumulators. That's it. They're still getting big contracts. So it pays to stay in shape. It pays to play as long as you can, and as long as there's somebody willing to pay you. You've got guys like Julio Franco who are playing in their mid-40s. Nobody talks about him anymore as any kind of a player, but he was actually a very good player, and he had some very good years earlier in his career. And I think didn't he end up playing in Japan even for a while? And it's just these guys go all over.
I think he played in Mexico. Yeah, he played all over, and he was once on the MLB Network. There's a batting cage there. He was like 60 years old at the time. He went up there and still had the same smooth stroke.
Yeah, I always thought he was a very underrated player.
One I'm glad that didn't get in was Kurt Schilling. Because as a person, he's terrible.
Yeah. He is hard to take. Yeah, and that's unfortunate because I think he should be judged. So I really think too much is made of his character, and but he invites it certainly, and he can't really. I know.
He came out for the insurrection, in favor of the insurrection.
I know. It's.
Well, it's just me, but I tend to look at Trump voters like they're off on a different planet.
Yeah.
But that's, I don't want to get into that. But
no.
There's a lot of people that want to see Gil Hodges in the Hall of Fame. If you look at his numbers compared to Orlando Cepeda and Tony Perez, they're about the same.
Yeah, he did fall short of 2,000 hits. But also, I don't think he's given enough credit for his managerial accomplishments. Taking the Mets.
He was a great fielder.
And he was a great fielder. He played in an era where there were a lot of power hitting first basemen. And stats as a result were swallowed by the Kluszewskis and but
Kluszewski only had 4 or 5 years when he was had a Hall of Fame years before his back went out on him.
Yeah, it's
his lifetime numbers weren't that big. Because, he hung around with the Pirates and the White Sox and the Angels for 4 or 5 years, but, he couldn't play very often.
No, he had to sit. He had to sit a lot of the time. But Yeah, I saw him play a couple times, and he really always impressed me. I remember I went to Indians used to play the Reds in an exhibition game every year, the regular season, and I remember being in Cleveland Stadium and thinking 50, maybe 53, 52, and the Reds came in and Kluszewski played, and I hadn't seen him play in person before, or even on TV for that matter. I only heard on the radio because Wade Hoyt was broadcaster. And man, when I saw him, I looked at this guy, and he really looked like, wow, I would not want to pitch to him under any conditions. But he looked gigantic, and he was. I mean, his upper
with
arm,
those short sleeves,
massive, short sleeves, and he played a great. He played for one of Indiana's best football team, probably of all time. He played in.
Yeah, I know that.
And with Pete Keoghs.
Pete Keoghs of the Eagles was on that team.
And George Taliaferro, and Kluszewski probably could have played pro football too, but the money wasn't there, and took baseball instead. Most guys did. Almost all guys took baseball over football because now it's the reverse.
A lot of football players from that era, some of whom were in the Hall of Fame, played 6-7 years at the most because they were getting beat up and they weren't getting any money for it.
No. It's but it was it was a different era then, because pro football and baseball was the game. If you were a multi-talented athlete, you went for baseball. You'd always chose baseball for it. You'd give it a try anyway. And guys like Carroll Hardy, great college football player. Tom Usick with Michigan State, great college football player. Decent major league player, but nothing great. Tom Haller, I think played for Michigan State too.
Illinois. He played for Illinois.
He played for Illinois. Okay, there were a lot of guys like that. Who
Paul Gear was a 2-time All-American, but he
went for baseball.
He became a bonus baby. He wasn't very good.
No, he wasn't. And Vic Janowitz, the same thing. Janowitz, liked baseball, but he liked football more. But football wasn't paying that much. I mean, he was playing both early in his career, and then he had that horrible auto accident which wrecked him. He could never play again, either football or baseball. But he was a good catcher, and he wasn't allowed to play college baseball in his early years at Ohio State because Woody Hayes would not permit football players.
Wagner?
Pardon me?
Oh, Janowitz you're talking about.
Janowitz. Until they were seniors. Hopalong Cassidy, an All-American halfback for Ohio State, wasn't allowed to play baseball until his senior year because he no longer had any college eligibility. So Hayes no longer had anything to say about it, whether he played baseball or not. But previously, with guys like Janowitz, Hayes said no baseball. You can't play baseball because Hayes did not get along with the baseball coach, for one thing, and he also did not like his guys playing multiple sports. He wanted them to concentrate only on football. And Janowitz went along with it until his senior year, but showed enough as a catcher with the Ohio State team that he got a pretty good bonus contract with the Pirates and did decently. Had a decent, but never really would establish himself as much of a force in Major League Baseball, but he was a tremendous football player with the Redskins until he got in the auto accident. But
I think once in a while I'll see somebody will post a picture of that Johnny and Eddie O'Brien and that one card in 54 Tops, and I put down they should have stuck to basketball.
Yeah, well, in the NBA, you could play that at their size. There were a lot of guys who were 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", playing in the NBA in the 50s. So they could have worked it.
Well, before Dick Rote went to the Army in early 1953, he played 20, I think it was 26, some amount of games with the Pistons.
Yeah,
in the NBA, and he averaged 11.9. This is before the shot clock.
Yeah.
And then he went into the Army, and when he comes out in 55, he told me this when I interviewed him 35 years ago, that he wanted to do both. And he mentioned Gene Conley. And he said, he's still calling him Mr. Ricky at that point. They all did, basically, except for Dizzy Dean, who called him Branch. And anyway, so Ricky said, first of all, you'll be playing 150 games a year for us. And second of all, in basketball, you'll be playing something like 45 minutes a game. You can't do both. And those years, the seasons didn't overlap the way they do now.
No.
So he said he went to, told me he loved basketball more, but he went to baseball because it was paying higher.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And he did the Pitt basketball broadcast for years.
Yeah, well, the Busher was another case like it. You know, a little bit later than Grote, but the Busher did pitch some with the White Sox, and before he decided to stick to the NBA, he wasn't really able to cut it in baseball. And I did see Michael Jordan. I was fortunate enough to see him in the fall league in Arizona. The 1 year he played baseball, and saw him play a full game. And he did not look good at the plate. All they gave him was breaking stuff, and he looked terrible. And
Bo Jackson,
but he gave it a chance. He gave it a shot, and put the money in basketball.
Bo Jackson's career ended when he got hit in a football game.
Yeah. Those guys aren't around anymore. You know, the money in baseball now is so huge.
I know,
and the money in football is huge too. So, and it's baseball's chancy. You know,
they overlap. They overlap.
Yeah, they overlap. You can't play you can't play a season in the minors and then expect to go to NFL training camp in July and be ready for the NFL season. They overlap too much. But
Deion Sanders played both.
He did.
There's one game where Carlton Fisk chewed him out for not respecting the game. I don't remember the exact circumstances, but I know that story. And I think you had a guy who played defensive back for Atlanta, and he also played football, Brian something or other.
Yeah, there were a few guys.
But I guess they wanted to collect from both ends. Who knows?
Well, the money now, the money in almost in every sport, even in hockey now is sizable enough that if you have a sport you're good at and you're doing well in it, there's no reason to try and be a two-sport guy anymore. You don't need that extra money. You don't need the aggravation. You don't need the chance of injury. I would always shoot baseball, regardless. But that's me. I mean, a lot of and I appreciate other guys like basketball better, baseball, football better, and they went that direction. And when I was in college, it was that way too. But
it was but what bothers me about baseball, again, there's not anything I can do about it. It's not so much what they pay the superstars. This is what Bill Beck said when free agency first came in. He said, the problem is not going to be the superstars, it's going to be the mediocrity. I mean, the Red Sox signed some pitcher who has a terrible record. Signed him for 1 year, $10 million. Gary Sanchez, the Yankee catcher, is probably going to go to arbitration with his having the worst average last year, 147. And he's got 24 hits and struck out 64 times. And defensively, he's no bargain either.
No, he's not. He's not.
And he's getting he's getting $2 million.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, how do you pay the guys like this that kind of money? Yeah.
Well, the Indians traded Lindor, and they're always trying to cut costs, and they signed Eddie Rosario for $8 million for 1 year. Eddie Rosario, the Twins didn't even want to. They didn't even make him an offer, to stay. So I don't get it. To sign for $8 million because you want to test the market the following year. It's unfathomable to me, the kind of, what the lifestyle of these players are able to maintain, and more power to them, because evidently the money's there, and if the owners are willing to pay, you got. So I don't know. But I just want the game.
Crying about losing money with.
Yeah, well, I think last year some of them genuinely did. They want us to
start they want the people to start a GoFundMe page for them.
Yeah.
But for these guys that can't play, and the Indians, I think, are becoming the American version of the Pirates.
They are. They've taken. Yeah. They had a young young team in 2016 with a lot of good young pitchers, and they had these guys under like Lindor and Rodriguez who were not making that much money, and they made a huge mistake in the 2016 postseason by keeping Mike Napoli in the cleanup spot all during the postseason, and they got away with it through the ALCS, but in the World Series, the Cubs took advantage, and Napoli batted under 200 and struck out 20 times in about 50 at bats, and that cost the Indians that series. And teams like the Indians are going to get maybe one chance every 10 or 12 years to go to the series, and I respect a team like Tampa Bay. When they get that chance, they're ready for it. Tampa Bay to me is the most enviable franchise. I'd love to be part of that organization, see how they're doing it, and study it, because I think they're a marvel.
Well, a couple of the later expansion teams, the Marlins, won 2 World Series. Yeah. And both after 1997 and 2003, they decimated the team. They got rid of everybody. The Diamondbacks in 2001 won the World Series, and they've never been even close since.
No. Oh, the Rockies
actually made it too.
Yeah, it's really difficult for me to buy into this, small market, big market, and all like this. I think it's unfortunate that teams are, calling themselves a small market team and using it as an excuse to, not keep up. But I think there are a lot of players out there who are still good young players who, and if you're a really good scout and are clever, you can assemble a team like the Rays did last year. I doubt that the Rays are going to even
Pirates will be very
contenders this year. They'll be weak.
Pirates will be very
weak.
Yeah, the Pirates will be very young this year.
Yeah.
Well, my goal for them is they don't lose 100.
Yeah, it remains to be seen whether how much of a season it's going to be, because they're still dickering, and neither side seems willing to offer much in the way of compromises yet. So we'll see what happens. But I hope there's a season, but it's a full season. But I don't know.
I mean, everything is the COVID. Everything is the COVID.
Yeah.
We put on the local news, so we hear for the first 20 minutes is COVID. I
know. Well, it's still a big problem, and
I know. Yeah.
I think it's going to continue to be, and I'm amazed that they've gotten through I'm amazed they got through the NFL season without any serious repercussions as far as of yet, and they've actually gotten the Super Bowl.
They're doing one game a week, basically.
Yeah.
It's not like baseball or basketball where you have a lot of games in a concentrated time, and I think it was one of the teams. I think it was the Marlins. They were in Atlanta, and a bunch of them went to the nightclub, and they came down with it. In fact, ironically, today it was announced that the New York City Director of Health tested positive.
Well, I don't know. It's
true. Yeah. One player I'd like to talk with you for a few minutes on is Mike Garcia. Somebody posted him on Sweet 16. I'm going to do a profile on him.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I actually spent some time with him a couple of times. I think I told you that I lived down the street from Jimmy Dudley, the Cleveland Indians broadcaster, and he had a party every year in the summer. And ball players would come, and Jimmy's stepson Doug was in my class, and we would go over to his house. We weren't part of the party, but we could kind of be hangers on. And I did spend. And one of the kids in my neighborhood, his favorite player was Mike Garcia, so he immediately approached him and got his autograph. And Garcia spent some time with us, and he was a really nice guy. And I can't remember if he was diabetic or something, but something really, he really didn't.
He died from kidney failure, I think.
Kidney failure, yeah. And he had some very good years as a pitcher, and he was kind of hidden on that staff because Wynn and Lemon would always supersede him. But many batters thought Garcia was even tougher to hit than anybody else on the staff. And
he had 4 or 5 really great years, but after 1954, where he was 19-8 and led the league in ERA, he collapsed in 1955 and went downward after that.
Yeah, he did, and I think health was part of the problem.
Okay.
The whole 54 team collapsed. Avila collapsed. Rosen collapsed. Garcia collapsed. Feller collapsed.
Well, Rosen couldn't hit the ball anymore.
No.
The broken hand he got in the All-Star game was. Yeah, he
had that finger injury, and after that, he was never the same. But I never understood it.
53 was an incredible season for him. And if he didn't get hurt, he probably could have, put up a few more like that.
I think so. He was doing very well in 54, and then he broke his finger. And after he broke it, he was well over 300. He was high. He had about 30 RBI in May, and was on his way to a really big season again. And then he broke the finger. They had him playing first base to try Regalado at third. Regalado didn't work out. So they had to trade for Wirtz and put Wirtz on first and move Rosen back to third. And his finger his finger may have been able to handle first base, but it couldn't handle third. And he kept having to tape it and take injections and all that. And he was never the same player again after that.
Yeah, and they got Dave Philly for 1954, and he hit 220.
Yeah, I know. You look at that team's roster, and you wonder how they won 111 games, and it was really pitching.
Well, they beat the hell out of the bad teams.
They beat
the hell out of the bad teams.
Yeah, and there were 5 bad teams.
Yeah.
There were 5 bad teams and 3 good teams, and the White Sox were buried away as the 3rd good team. But the Red Sox finished under 500, and they were in 4th place. Under 500.
I think the White Sox won 94 and the Red Sox won 69. So it's a 25 game back. Gap
like
between the 3rd and 4th teams, which is probably a record of some sort.
I think it is. Yeah, I don't know if there's been a lower first division team ever in baseball history. That
I don't have those anymore.
Yeah, they don't.
They don't have those anymore.
Yeah, with 4 and 5 team divisions and football and baseball. It's a lot of that record stuff is all. Yeah, it's gone. It's ancient history. But
yeah, okay.
Yeah, well, this has been fun. I really enjoyed it once again.
Same here.
I look forward to doing it again soon.
We'll do one in a couple of weeks, okay?
All right. Take care. Be safe.
Maybe I can get Zacco for that. Okay. This is Al Blumkin signing off. I hope the people who listen to this podcast enjoy it, and we'll be back soon. Thank you.